bringing Gator Nation a different Gator great every episode.
This is Jabbar Gaffney. You're listening to the All for the Gators podcast.
Hey, I'm Earl Everett. You're not a Gator, you're Gator bait.
This is Bo Carroll.
Hey, I'm Rita Anthony.
This is Kewan Ratliff, and you are listening to All for the Gators podcast.
This is Cedric Faison, a.k.a. C4.
This is Brandon James.
This is Jack Jackson. Go Gators.
Hi, this is your boy Jeremy Mincy, a.k.a. Mr. Mintz, and we were the All for the Gators podcast.
This is Ben Trooper. You listening to the All for the Gators podcast.
Hey, guys, this is Jarvis Moss. Go Gators.
You rocking with Lito Shepherd, and we're All for the Gators podcast, man. Top notch.
This is Chris Doring, and you're listening to the All for the Gators podcast.
And now, your Gator alumni hosts, John, Andy, and Sid.
I got nothing.
Got nothing?
I got nothing.
Nothing?
Welcome.
Well, when you got nothing to lose. A wise man once said.
There you go. Welcome to another intro session to the All for the Gators podcast. How about that?
I like it.
It's not very good.
No?
Nope.
All right.
It's not going to retain our listeners, I'll tell you that.
I didn't know retention was a requirement. I'm just happy they're joining. You know.
The guests,
hello, friends of the show.
No, the guests
Welcome.
retain our listeners. We don't do that.
That's right.
Good point.
They are not listening to us.
That's true.
So, guys, have you been playing it?
Playing? Tell me.
Playing it.
I'm always playing around. What are you referring to?
The game.
The game? It's
college football.
Oh, it is in the game.
EA Sports College Football 25.
I honestly have not played it.
Nope.
Okay.
Am I missing out? Is it a good one? How do the Gators look? We got a good team?
I think we're rated an 86 overall, so that's pretty good.
All right.
But the game hasn't been out in 10 years. The last game that they put out was 2014.
Hey, Gators had a decent season back then, too.
Well, yeah. Well, I used to buy that game every year from the late 90s.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was it. I used to get the game, and that was it. You wouldn't see me for like 2 weeks.
Yep.
I'd get home. I'd print out the Gator rosters. I would input the rosters to the game, and I would play season after season after season.
It was a black pit of time. Once upon a time, those
I remember those days.
So now, fast forward, 2 kids, a wife, the game comes out. I turn it on. I'm lucky if I have like a half hour.
Yeah.
What can I do in a half hour? I'm like doing 2 recruiting steps, and I got to shut the game off. It's horrible. I used to binge that game like 30 hours in a row, not even go to bed.
Yep.
Well, that's solid. And if they're going by the season schedule, my goodness, what a schedule we're working on this year. So, yikes.
Yeah. I saw somebody simulated, all the teams, and the Gators, I think, had 5 losses. So that's not so great.
With the schedule we have, it's possible we could be like a much better team than we were last year. We might not show it in the standings of the record book, so it's kind of rough. We got a pretty brutal schedule.
Speaking about the record book, our guest today.
Ooh.
He knows a little something about being in a record book.
I like where this is going.
Yeah, this is a good one.
Please tell us more.
Well, today's guest was not just a pioneer of the fun and gun. He's someone that transformed their position at UF and the SEC. Sometimes we have Gator greats on, and it's been some years since they've played, and some big names have come through at their position since, so their accomplishments sort of get lost in the shuffle, right? Well, it's time to give this guy his flowers, right? That's what the kids say these days. He deserves for the new generation to recognize the mark he left on the program and the conference, and today we're going to do just that. Gator Nation, I give to you first team All-SEC, All-American, the trailblazing tight end from the inception of Spurrier's revolutionary offense with number 88 on his chest, Mr. Kirk Kirkpatrick.
All right. Welcome to the show.
Hey, fellas. How's it going? What an intro.
Good. How you doing, Kirk? Thank you so much for taking the time with us today.
My pleasure. Glad to be here.
You ready for some Gator football? Just, I guess, a little over a month away?
I can't believe it's coming up so fast, So, fantasy football, that's my big thing, obviously as you get older. But,
oh, boy.
Yeah. It's exciting time of year. I just saw they had Gator Media Day today. Was it today or yesterday?
There was some today. I saw it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, it's exciting.
You're big into fantasy football?
I mean, I wouldn't say big. I mean, it's like actually Culpepper and myself are on the same team, or not the same team. I play in his league with a bunch of attorneys and stuff. So I'm not an attorney, but more or less a bunch of attorneys.
Very cool.
So
I have a bit of a problem. I'm down to 13 leagues from last year.
oh god, I do
my
2 plus FanDuel, and then you're just sort of wiped out, you know.
Oh, FanDuel's being used too. Yes,
Yeah,
I wasn't
yeah.
counting that,
Yeah,
but I'm
yeah.
with you.
I'm on that level. I do 2 with FanDuel too.
Yep, that's what I do. So,
That's
nothing
about
big.
right. Yeah, Sid's out of control, but the rest of us are normal.
Yeah,
Very good at multitasking.
So, Kirk, you were born on an Air Force base in the Panhandle. Were you a military kid?
I was a military kid. My father was in the Air Force, and he was a fighter pilot, and he played football at Tulane back when they were in the SEC, believe it or not. And he was, I want to say he was all conference his senior year. He was 50, 51, 52. If you had asked me back when I played, I would have had no idea what years he was there. But as you get older, you become where you enjoy looking up about your dad and stuff. So he played at Tulane, and then the NFL didn't really exist back then. I mean, it was more profitable to go and be in the Air Force, I guess. And he was a fighter pilot and spent 22 years, like 196 missions in Nam. So he was an A1 Sky Raider was his plane. So it was like sort of the beast of the military back then. Really helped the ground troops and stuff like that. So, yeah, he was a tough old man. That's for sure. He passed away in 2008, but yeah, he was very happy about me going to Florida and loved wearing that orange jersey and blue jersey, which looked ridiculous back in the day, but that's what they did, So, yeah.
How'd you end up in Brandon?
My dad retired at MacDill Air Force Base, which is in Tampa, and Brandon's a suburb of Tampa. And Brandon was an all-American type city back then. It's sort of gone to hell since, but I want to say we had the biggest high school in the nation, or maybe it was second in the nation. We had like 5,000 people in a high school, so we had a really big high school. It was only 3 grades. It was 10th, 11th, 12th, and we were on double sessions, so it was pretty wild.
Wow!
And it's only 15 minutes from from downtown Tampa, and my mom still lives there. She's 88, still just killing it. She's just doing
your
great.
old number.
Yeah, my old number. That's right. And
There you go.
I grew up in Brandon, didn't know any better, and it was really an all-American type place back then. And now, more specific, I was in Valrico, which is not even Brandon. So when you said Valrico, that really threw people off, and I sounded like a country bumpkin, but it really wasn't. It's just sort of in the suburbs.
Well, first, thank you to your dad for protecting our freedom, and that must have been amazing. Did you ever get to go up in the air with him and play some Top Gun tricks or anything for you, or it wasn't like that?
No, he retired in 72, so I was only 4.
Oh, gotcha.
So no, and I don't think they would have let me in the military plane, but he did get a regular plane, and he did, he did his fair share of, flying around the state, and he loved doing that for probably 10 or 15 years.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So taking it back to Valrico, big guy. Did you play anything besides football? Were you into basketball too?
Football in the fall, basketball in the winter, and baseball in the spring and summer. And that's sort of the way I grew up. You didn't really specialize like the kids do now, but you sort of had to learn all 3 sports. At least we did down in Florida. You guys are Florida guys. You guys probably know that too.
That's right.
Or at least back then. So yeah, you play all 3 sports, and I enjoyed it all.
Did you play a lot of positions in football? I know you played wide receiver there at Brandon High. Did you play other receivers?
I did not. I was a tight end and outside linebacker.
Oh, okay.
So I grew up loving Earl Campbell and Herschel Walker. I was number 34 in high school. I wanted to be a Georgia Bulldog, and then saner heads prevailed. I started loving University of Florida probably my junior year, and went to a Gator game, went to the spring game, and got recruited. My visits were Florida, Florida State, Georgia, Clemson, and Notre Dame. So I was very fortunate to be recruited by pretty much all the big schools, and I knew I didn't want to go too far. I mean, I was a mama's boy. I really didn't want to go too far away. So, UF was 2 hours away, and they had a great program, and they were.
So is that what landed you at UF? Just the close vicinity to your home?
That it was the biggest, the biggest stadium. It's so funny when you're a kid, you sort of think of the big stadiums. I did know that it was by far the best alumni, and I remember knowing that if I was going to live in Florida the rest of my life, you'd want to have the University of Florida connections, and that has been the one thing is 100% true. I mean, you go to University of Florida, you are connected throughout the whole state, and that's what I don't think the coaches push hard enough, because not everybody goes in the NFL, and even if you do go in the NFL, you need to have connections everywhere if you're going to be in business or whatever. So, making a sales pitch for UF right now.
Yeah, you are.
So we've had guys on that have given us that was part of Spurrier's pitch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Basically telling them, if you're going to live in Florida afterwards, if the weather's good, this is where you're going to want to be. So might as well come to Florida.
Yeah,
tough to argue with that.
Yeah.
So when you're going through the recruiting process, you mentioned you played a little linebacker too. Were you considered to play some defense in orange and blue also? Were other schools giving you the opportunity there? Or how did you ultimately land at tight end? And obviously, it sounded like the proximity helped you get in Gainesville, but how close were you to being a defensive star instead of an offensive star?
Well, I like to think of myself. I was definitely more of a Jack Ham. We'll see, the kids nowadays won't know who the hell Jack Ham is.
Steelers linebacker.
I was.
We know that.
Yeah. You guys know. Sure. I think I had 10 fumble recoveries my senior year. I was always around the ball, so I was always good at that. Wasn't it the Jack Lambert of the team, but I definitely had better in the skills position. I had much better hands. So the tight end position, I was much better tight end, and pretty much UF had me at tight end the whole time, and that's where I wanted to go. I wanted to play offense.
It worked out
for sure. Yeah, it did work out.
Your first several years playing for Galen Hall's Gators, the offense is obviously centered around Emmitt. Minimal action for the tight end there, mostly blocking for the future NFL Hall of Famer. What was that like? I mean, did you see the glimpses?
No, it you didn't have the internet back then, and so what's funny is you go into back then. I know kids nowadays don't see this, but you had no idea who was really on the team, because you saw the roster of the games and stuff, but you really didn't know who was who. You didn't go to practices. They didn't really you didn't have YouTube. You had no idea what players were good or not, and then. You go up there, you get recruited, and they put your name on a jersey, and you think you're going to be in the varsity locker room, and you're going to be right next to Ricky Nattiel and Kerwin Bell and all these people that were the stars then, Neil Anderson. And then you get there and you go into the JV locker room, because you don't even have it. I'm not sure if they still do that, but they really, you get a number. You don't even get a football number. You get a J number. You got I think it was J29. So you didn't even get a regular number. You're just you had to start more or less at the very bottom. And that was very humbling. And that brought you down pretty fast. Even Emmitt did that probably the first 2 weeks. And then, he showed what he was about. And
I don't think they do that JV thing anymore, because if the player doesn't get the playing time he wants, he hits the transfer portal.
It's true.
Isn't that wild? That is so wild.
It's a different world.
It is a different game.
Yeah, what do you do? You just, I guess you never really buy into anything,
It's a different game.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, you had to buy in, and you went up to, you thought you'd be second team when you went up as a freshman, and then you found out there's 4 guys that are, all 6'5", 230, 240. And Coach Red Anderson, he was the tight end coach when I got there. And I remember my true freshman year, he goes, "Kirkpatrick, do you know why you're 6th team?" I was 6th team. And I said, "Why, Coach?" He goes, "Because we don't have a 7th team."
Oh.
So that was, you want to talk about, that was a good burn.
So 1990, Steve Spurrier comes back to Gainesville. What were your thoughts back then when you kind of heard the news? Were you expecting anything different? How did that initial meeting go with him?
Well, I remember there was always rumors about Coach Spurrier coming back, and the whole '89 season was pretty wild because Galen got had to step down for some sort of crazy rule. I think it was Jarvis Williams, who played a few years earlier. supposedly got like $200 or $500. It was something ridiculous for child payment. It was some crazy elaborate story. And that's how Galen had to step down, which made no sense, which Galen wasn't even involved in. So Galen was a really good man. And, his offense didn't necessarily work for me. But transferring was out of the question. I mean, I just sort of played my lot. I mean, that's what I was going to do. And, I think I was second on the team my junior year in receptions. I think I had like 18 receptions for like 245 yards, I think. So when we played in the Freedom Bowl, we played Washington out in where is it? Costa Mesa. It was the old is in Anaheim, and we got crushed because everybody knew the outgoing coaching staff was leaving, and Spurrier was supposedly coming in.
That was a good team too. Didn't they win a national championship around that time also?
Yeah, I think they did the next year.
Yeah,
they beat our ass. So they took that game really seriously, and we obviously did not. We lost 34-6, but I remember Emmitt took off his shoulder pads at halftime. I remember that, and Emmitt would never do that, and he already knew he was going to the pros. And the plane ride back was just wild. I mean, people were just throwing pillows. The coaches would say, "Hey, keep it down." They were like throwing pillows at the coach. I'm talking about just disrespect everywhere. It was wild. And man, can you imagine if there was alcohol on that thing, on that bus or on that plane? The plane would have gone down.
Trouble.
Anyway, we get back to Gainesville. Coach Spurrier comes in, and I had never really met him. I had seen him, obviously, the Tampa Bay Bandits. I knew he really threw the ball around, and he came in, and the first thing he did is he made everybody, proud to be a Gator. And that was something that didn't really exist before. It obviously existed back in 84 and 85 when they were, winning the SEC. But he really brought back in, singing the alma mater after the game, really stepping up and being proud to wear a Gator, sweatshirt around campus, and just really buying in. And that's what Coach Spurrier did, because I still don't know anybody who loved University of Florida more than he did. And, I think as great as Tim Tebow and Werfel are, I still, think Spurrier's the best Gator because he did it on so many levels.
It's true.
As a player and a coach.
Yeah.
And he loves the University of Florida. I mean, absolutely loves it. And he got everybody to buy in to be a Gator. And he turned that team around, and we had the same talent, if maybe a little bit less talent. And we go from, I think we were 6-6, I think, to 9-2. And we should have, we won the SEC, and then, we can't go to the bowl game because of the stupid previous rule, which made no sense because it was something from 86 that was it was insane. But anyway, Spurrier was amazing. And I will say about Spurrier previously, and again, no disrespect to the coaches that were there, but there was always a lot of pressure and a lot of angst. There was a constant angst. And when Spurrier got there, he had a, sort of just, let's just get after it. And he didn't take the little shit serious, and he only focused on the big stuff. And a perfect example is like after the Florida-Georgia game. This is 87, 88, 89. All the players would want to go back to Jacksonville. Well, the coaching staff would make us go from Jacksonville, take the team bus back to Gainesville, and then we'd all drive, after playing a game, drive all the way back to Jacksonville to then drive back. So it made no sense. So Spurs like, no, why don't you guys just stay here after the game? I mean, he did basic stuff like that, and he made us into a, where we didn't beat the shit out of each other in practice. He took he took the pads off a lot of the time, and let us really develop the skills that we needed. And Spurrier was just a very smart coach. He was perfect for what Florida needed at the time. And, he's amazing. I think he brought in the SEC into the modern game. I would say, arguably the college game into the modern era.
And then now pro game.
Not three clouds. Yeah. Yeah, not three downs and a cloud of dust like it used to be.
I love hearing how he established the culture from point one immediately, and as you point out, some of these just small things. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
It's the new sheriff in town.
Yeah, new sheriff in town. I got to tell this one story with Spurrier, and
Please.
he denies that this happened, but I do remember the first game. It was against Oklahoma State. It was the first game, and we had the Gainesville murders happen the week before, so it was wasn't a great way to start my senior year, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But Coach Spurrier it was the first game. We were playing Oklahoma State, which is that's a pretty good squad. Just Oklahoma State, they're pretty talented. They come on the road, but we have no idea if they're any good. We think we're pretty good, but we have no idea. And our game was probably, I think it was at 4:00 game, and it was about, I would say 11:30. And Coach Spurrier just got finished running, and he was laughing in the pool. He was joking around with Coach Reeves and Coach Franks, and he was in the pool just having a good time, totally chill, totally relaxed. Didn't have any of that pressure. That's the pressure I was talking about, which translated into a lot of players being able to just play freer and not have the weight of the world on your shoulders, not feel like if you screwed up one time, you're never going to see the field again. He was just awesome. I mean, absolutely awesome. And that's what he changed. He changed the attitude. He made you love Florida. He took away the small bullshit, and he made he really cared about UF, and you focused on the stuff that was the bigger things that are important. And that's a big thing he taught me in life. I still carry that forward today. So nothing but respect for old ball coach.
Well, clearly, he had a lot of respect for you as well. He said so to the media many times that he saw something in you, and this is great hearing this insight and his leadership style. Did you have a close personal relationship? Was it I know he was younger then. Was it more like a big brother thing? Or something what was he like when he first arrived, off the field?
He was the same as he is now. I mean, he really is. He had all the confidence. I mean, hell, he won the Heisman Trophy, so he was pretty much he was pretty confident then. I mean, I wish I would have had 4 years with him like Batesy did and stuff like those guys. To only have 1 year sort of feels a little shortchanged, and I still am close to Coach Spurrier. I had lunch with him with Representative Bilirakis maybe a year ago up at his up at Coach Spurrier's, and he's just awesome. I mean, he's still the same old ball coach. All right, good seeing you. Take care. He's just the best.
The year you were there, the year he did the special ring, or was that?
The number. Yeah. No, that was my year. The number one in the SEC, which Culpepper still gives me credit. Number one in the SEC. Yeah, that's pretty bad. But Culpepper won the SEC the next year, and so he always gives me a hard time about the number one in the SEC. But that was we only had 13 seniors, I think. Was it 13? It was not a lot because we had goes back to my probably not thinking about it when I came in as a freshman. I was one of 13 or maybe 15 people that got scholarships because they cut all the scholarships for the probation. Yeah, for the sanctions. And you're so dumb as a senior in high school. You're like, well, that means Florida really loves me. I'm one of 15 people to get it. So I looked at it as like an honor, when in reality, it's like you're not going to have any depth. You don't realize that when you're 18. That's why you send 18 and 19-year-olds to war, because you have no idea what you're doing. You run through a wall, so that's sort of why we didn't have a lot of depth, that's for sure. And, anyway, my senior year, I was one of like 15 seniors. It was not a lot of seniors, and but the ones we had were fantastic. Myself, Mark Murray, Huey Richardson, just the list goes on. We have a bunch of great guys that weren't redshirted. Terrence Barber, Jimmy Spencer. I mean, a bunch of good guys. Godfrey Miles, rest in peace. I had a lot of my former teammates all pass away. That gets scary when you get older, So, a lot of them passed away. But still close with Huey Richardson. He's up in New York, and Mark Murray. Paca's finest. We got Chris Bromley was my roommate. He was 3.5-year starter, and his brother Phil was part of the Great Wall of Florida. We had a great bunch of guys, that's for sure. Ernie Mills, God, how can I forget Ernie?
We had him on
from Denellen.
Yep.
Oh, did you?
We've had a lot of your teammates on.
You got to tell them how.
Yeah.
I'm the last guy, huh? I'm the last guy you guys call.
Hopefully not. Maybe you can have some more of your friends come join us.
Well, it sounds like you got
No, we haven't got Culpepper. Can't get a hold of Culpepper.
That's okay. Oh, I can get a hold of Culpepper. I can get him. I can get him on.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Let's talk about that seismic shift in offense happening in 1990 when Spurrier comes back, the fun and gun. And, of course, it's headed up by future 2-time SEC Player of the Year, Shane Matthews. And you have a huge part in it. What was it like to be winning at that clip?
Yeah.
And for Spurrier to have such faith in you to be such a big part in that offense, what was that like?
Yeah, that was, really sort of unexpected. I wouldn't say unexpected. I was a very good pass catching tight end. So I was.
Terrence Barber said you had the best hands on the team.
Well, it was definitely between me and Terrence. Terrence had great hands too. I mean, no doubt. Gloves had just come in, like the Newman gloves. They're not as good as the ones they have now, but you really had to learn. I guess the kids now they are even more talented. But those gloves help. Have you felt the gloves nowadays?
I haven't, but I saw Pearsall's catch. So.
Oh my goodness! I mean, they really are. They're like next level. Well, they're next level because they really do. They sort of have this tackiness to them, and they never sort of get wet. And that was when we were playing, we would have to go through a pair. I went through a pair of gloves every quarter because they would just, they were sort of leathery. They were like baseball gloves, sort of, but a little bit thicker. But and they were a little tackified, but then they made that illegal too. Anyway, where was I going on with this? Being a part of it. So yeah, Shane Matthews. I want to say he started out as 5th or 6th team, maybe in the spring. He was way down the list as quarterbacks, and Coach Spurrier's offense looked very daunting. I want to say it's either 50 or maybe it was 100 because if you do left and right, I want to say it was 100 formations that they had that he could have at any one time. And, when you multiply all the different plays that you can go along with it, I picked it up really easily. Maybe because I had so many different offenses from the different offense coordinators I had the first few years, but Shane picked it up really fast, and Shane threw a really catchable ball, and he always threw it to the right spot, and he was a very fast decision maker. And Shane is, one of the best quarterbacks to ever play at Florida. And if you would have, looked at him in arm strength and stuff, which it seems like the first generation, the coaches before, they really cared about, the speed of the quarterback and the strength of his arm and stuff like that. That's why Shane, I think, was probably overlooked for a while. Love Shane Matthews' band. The best.
Well, we want to get your take on one of your famous plays. We'll talk about the Akron game. Take us through the lateral to Barber and toss to you.
I think that's the only one. Yeah. That's the only one that sort of made it to YouTube, I think. I know I just missed, I remember my dad had all the videotapes. It's like, thanks, Dad. I didn't have anything I doubt they can be turned into CDs or CDs turned into,
YouTube videos,
an online album. Yeah, YouTube video. But yeah, that play we practiced it a bunch, and I shouldn't say a bunch. We practiced it probably 4 or 5 times, and I know it was it'd be cover 3, and then the cornerback would jump up, and then I would act like I'm blocking sort of the guy, and then break off. And Terrence threw a perfect ball, and I remember I was scared I was gonna bobble that because it was just too easy, So then I almost ran out of bounds. I remember. When you get down there towards the end, because you think you're wide open, and then you're like, oh, that's sort of those are the hardest catches, I think, is when you're too wide open. But yeah, Terrence threw a great ball, and he still sends me that clip probably once a year. And then he asked me if he can go golfing at Palmacia, which I'm like, no, Terrence. Last time I took him golfing, I had to like leave after like 9 holes, and then he stayed up there. And he went with Gary Sheffield, the baseball player.
Sure.
I had like a $300 bill, just a $300 bill, just from them just drinking the whole time. And, that's what I get for leaving Terrence up there. But anyway, yeah, he threw a great ball, and he still loves talking about that. He still sends that video to me to this day.
Let's talk about that Georgia game. You go 8 for 112, eclipsing UF's school record for most catches by a tight end. How special was that day for you?
That was when I tell that story quite a bit. I'd probably tell that story more than anybody. I had Ric Flair there at the game. So whoever says I'm the original person who brought Ric Flair to University of Florida. So my best buddy Joe Gomez, Alan Iron Eagle was his wrestling name. He played football at Louisville with Jay Gruden, believe it or not. Jay Gruden was quarterback at Louisville for a while. And Joe was up there until he got kicked out, and Joe was a wild man. Anyway, Joe was a professional wrestler, and so he got to know Flair, and Flair's wife at the time, I'm not sure if that was like his second wife, went to had gone to University of Florida. So, Joe's like, hey, I'd met Rick at a couple of different shows with him against Hulk Hogan, like the previous summer. And, anyway, he said he wanted to go. I was like, all right, I'll get him, sideline passes. I'll be damned. He showed up. He actually showed up. So he was there with my girlfriend, who ended up being my wife, my first wife. I have my second wife, but my first wife, I have a good relationship with her now. But she was on the sideline with Ric Flair's wife and Flair was there. And I mean, I had a great game. We beat Georgia 38-7, I think. And it was an awesome game. We played great. We had lost to them 4 years in a row, I want to say. And to beat them 38-7 was really, really nice. I remember I had to go against Mo Lewis. He's the guy who
from the Jets. I know Mo Lewis well.
Yeah,
great linebacker.
Yeah, he's the one who put Drew Bledsoe out. He's the one
that created Tom Brady's opportunity. He did.
Correct.
He broke Drew Bledsoe.
yeah, he broke Drew Bledsoe. Isn't that crazy how that sort of plays out? So had a great game, 8 catches for 112 yards. I remember after the game going out with Ric Flair. We didn't have to go back to Gainesville. We just went out because Coach Spurrier was cool that way. And we went on Teddy Turner Jr.'s boat. I remember doing that, and I remember having like the best time. I mean, it was just awesome. I mean, it was packed. We won 38-7, and that was and set the tight end record. Yeah, which I didn't even know existed until somebody told me that I'd just broken it, because that was before computers. We didn't really know that.
Sure.
Somebody said that. I was like, okay, I didn't know that. That was one of the highlights of my senior year for sure.
You mentioned the turnaround from the 500 team to the 9-2 year that first year, but obviously we talked about the special ring and the sanctions. Do you think that the sanctions maybe played a part in Spurrier kind of letting it go, or really he couldn't lose anything, right? Do you think that played a part?
Yeah, not at all. I think
no? Okay.
I think we would have gone 11 and. I think we'd have gone 11-2. I really do. I think we were a really good team. Florida State was really good, and our defense didn't play the best game. That was probably the only bad game they played the last 2 years that I was a Gator, was probably against Florida State. The Tennessee game, I still got so much shit for dropping the ball. It was the only drop I had at Florida was against Tennessee, and it was I was going to score a touchdown. I had to do a corner route. Shane put it perfect, and I was worried about getting my feet in, and I just dropped it. And I remember going into the film session, and this is another good thing to learn. Coach Spurrier said, "Hey, did the lights get in your eye?" And so I was a senior, so I was smart enough to say, "Nope, Coach. I just dropped it." He was looking for me to make an excuse, and I was like, I learned that valuable lesson earlier. But yeah, he. Don't make excuses. I mean, so, you just have to own it. And I was like, yeah, I dropped it, coach. And Spurrier, he only knows how to play one way, and he's gonna go all out. And we had a great team. We had a lot of talent, and I don't think he had anything to prove. I mean, he was young and fearless back then. I guess he was 45, 46 at the time, which at the time, you think he's so old, but man, he's 10 years older than me now, or 10 years younger than me now. So he was, yeah. When I look back and look at his hair and how brown it was and stuff, and it's wild. It's wild that where's the time gone? But yeah, Coach Spurrier he's fantastic, and I still think he could coach. I mean, he was coaching 4 years ago, the Orlando team. Just a great mind, and he called most of the plays back then from the sideline. He wasn't even up in the skybox, but he knew the offense so well that he would call the plays from the sideline, which is insane to do, especially when you have the sloped fields. You can't really see everything, and he would call the game from the sideline. Amazing.
Did Shane ever disagree with him? I mean, was there ever?
Oh, not the first couple of years. Are you kidding me? I can guarantee you, Shane did not do it his first year.
Okay.
Now, Werfel did tell me one story, and I'm not that close with Danny because I didn't play with him at all. So I was never with Danny, but I did hear Danny tell a really funny story, and you guys have probably heard it, where he threw the ball, and I want to say it was an out route, and he's like, man, I know Coach Spurrier is going to rip me. So he went over there, and Coach Spurrier goes, Danny, that's my fault. And he just put his hands on his chest. He goes, Danny, that's my fault. He goes, I shouldn't have put you in. I'm sorry. So he just made Werfel feel even worse. I think it was he was a freshman then. It's so Coach Spurrier was the best at playing those little mind games just to sort of keep you in check and motivate you and stuff like that. Fortunately or unfortunately, I was a senior, so when you're a senior, you don't fall for those things. But when you're a freshman, you definitely do. You're all in. But what a great start of a bunch of great seasons. The 12 years of Coach Spurrier were fantastic. We had a reunion. It's probably 5 years ago now, but we had over at Daytona Beach, and he had all his teams over. It was great to see all the guys, and me being there and seeing people that were there, from all the way to 2002. It was a great tribute to the coach, and hopefully we're going to do it again. We're talking about doing it every year, and then how the years get away from you. So you guys are probably just now realizing that, right? So it's like every year is too much, but probably every 3 years it's probably the sweet spot. The Silver 60s, which are all the guys I'm fortunate enough to know Larry Smith, who was Gator great in the 60s, and his teams, and actually Spurrier's teams, they got together every year, and they're called the Silver 60s, and they would get together every year. Every year they would get together. A lot of good Gators in this state of Florida.
Including you. And we have to talk about that final last season there. You led the SEC in receptions, breaking UF receptions mark, leading the team in receiving yards, tied with Ernie Mills, friend of the show. And you earned second team All-American, first team All-SEC, even voted team MVP. I mean, This was your only year you had Spurrier. Do you ever think, man, I wish I could have had 4 years? Like you would have been all over the record books.
I do. I wish I could have had 4 years under Spurrier, because it was definitely if you were pretty bright and if you knew where to be, you would just thrive in that offense. I mean, because if you could catch the ball, and I was fast back in the day, and I had good hands, and I would be in the right spot. I couldn't block for shit, but I could definitely catch the ball, and that's where you really think about it. But it's one of those things where it's like, if I could only go back to when I was younger and know what I know now. So there's no use in doing that. Yeah, I mean, it is for a reason. Doreen was unbelievable playing the Y position. I mean, he was more or less, the Y position, in the tight end game. Coach Spurrier did let me, stretch out and flex out a little bit because we normally didn't do that. Back then the tight end would always stay right off the tackle, but I started like wanting to move away, especially if I had to get an inside route. I would like to move away so I could get inside. And Coach Spurrier would give you the flexibility. He was very pragmatic. That's the best word to describe Coach Spurrier. He knows when
so ahead of the game too. That's how the modern
way
offenses are now. Yep. That was never happening then. That was what was so unique.
Never happening. Yep. It was like if you had an inside, if you had to make an inside move, tough, you had to, go through the defensive tackle, which is next to impossible. Where, if you want to flex out, you can, and you're able to just, do what the smart thing to do is. And that's where Spur's the best. I mean, he's the best. And Shane, what a great job he did carrying it, 90, 91, 92, 93, wow, 40. Shane was he a redshirt? Because then Werfel was 96, 95, 94, 93. Yeah, so Shane's last year was 92. He was a redshirt sophomore.
It says he was drafted by the Bears after the 92 season, so that would have been his last
season. Yeah, that makes sense. Because Terry Dean was supposedly going to be the heir apparent, and Terry was a great player
for a minute.
Yeah, Terry Dean was a great player, really smart kid from Naples, and you have to have, and Terry was a really good player. You have to be, the timing, you have to be in the right spot at the right time. You got to have humility. You got to support your teammates. And, when you get your chance to shine, you can't, screw the pooch either. So those are the lessons I sort of learned. And they apply very much in life. You gotta be there when the times are really important, and just being in the right place at the right time. Is a big part of it. Not everybody can be Emmitt. I mean, Emmitt was a superstar his whole life. And, I remember when Emmitt came in and we had the number 2 defense in the country. We had Lewis Oliver, Jarvis Williams, Adrian White. No, Adrian just graduated. We had 3 All-American DBs, and we had an unbelievable defense. And Emmitt came in with I want to say it was the 3rd team offense, and he shredded the defense. I mean, because you very rarely did you have, it might have been the second team. It was second team offense against the first team defense. And usually it's very dominant one way, and Emmitt just shredded the defense, and he just kept on. And the defensive coordinator was just going crazy, and they couldn't stop Emmitt. And then you sort of saw the talent. Because you look at Emmitt, and he's only 5'9", what was he, 210, 215 then? And he wasn't real muscular. He didn't have, where you just saw something magical in him without him playing. But then you saw his balance and his vision, and you're like, that's the most special running back I've ever seen in my life. And I was very fortunate to be a part of watching Emmitt play. And then you sort of see the tragedies of, great players that, like to party too much and, or like the women too much, and they couldn't quite put it together. And, they're out fast, and they get replaced. And, the machine keeps moving. The Florida football machine is, I always call it a machine because I still can't figure out who's in charge of it. For a while there, I thought it was the big boosters, and then I thought it was Jeremy, and then I thought it was, obviously everybody thought it was Coach Spurrier, but it's it still moves. And I guess it's whoever's the big Gator booster at the time is what I think now. But I guess the NIL money, which I still don't understand all of it, how that goes. But it's the Wild West now for sure. I mean, some of these players, all these players are worth $500,000 now. I mean, even crazy. The scrubs. Yeah. So that's insane that they have that type of money. I mean, who wouldn't like to be, 20, 21 years old and be worth, $500,000 and not even be that great, if you're, so that's insane. And I can't imagine, obviously Tebow I'm going all over the place here, so sorry guys, but Tebow, how bad did he get screwed? I mean, all those jerseys that got sold, He didn't get a penny for him. Hopefully he's getting something for him now. He's doing fine now.
I think he's doing okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't he have like a mansion in Jacksonville on the beach or something like that? I think he made out.
I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah. He's a good kid.
Kirk, you're quick to give a lot of love to Emmitt and to Shane and to your teammates around you. But before we move on from that season, you hauled in 55 passes. And I want to put that into perspective here. You didn't just have a good year as a tight end. You led the SEC in receptions as a tight end.
Right.
Carl Pickens, you remember him from the Bengals?
Good receiver, long time.
He came in second with 53 with Tennessee.
Right.
So,
that's
pretty amazing.
Yeah, they didn't include the playoff games either, or the bowl games, and you only played 11 games back then, so it was a little bit different. I love my career at University of Florida. I have no regrets.
So let me ask you this. Looking back, what would you say is the accomplishment you're most proud of as a Gator?
Oh, man. I honestly...
The awards, the records, being voted MVP.
It's when I think back upon my career, which I really don't think back upon it that much. I remember my friendships with my teammates. I mean, you go to battle with them, and again, that's no disrespect to veterans, but it's still, you have that camaraderie. You go through stuff together, and as a team, and any of my teammates, we're still, buddies on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. When I still see them, it's so great to see them. I mean, I'm still on, group chats and stuff, and I it's not an individual thing. It's really not. I can't say, it's the individual awards don't really mean much. And again, it's really just being part of the team and trying to get to the next level. And that's what it's all about. I mean, being part of something bigger than you is way more fulfilling than having individual accomplishments. I mean, it is. And, I think that's where the long-term sort of happiness is when you're part of it. And, I think you learn that when you get older too. And I was fortunate enough to probably get those, instilled in me from my father from being in the military, probably. But yeah, I'd never, when my friends were doing well, I was happy for them, and there was never any jealousies or squabbles with that. It was always about what's best for the team, which I wish there was probably more of that now. But any of the really good teams, they definitely instill that. The good coaches,
So Kirk, your story really transcends much more than just on the football field. After UF, brief stint with the Rams. You played in the World Football League for the Birmingham Fire.
Yeah.
But you end up as founder and CEO of Riverside Recovery in Tampa.
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about what happened to you after football and how you got to the point of founding, a recovery center?
Yeah. How long do I have? Do I only have a couple minutes? I can tell you the short story, the long story. Again, I had a really idyllic type childhood. I had a really good career at University of Florida. The NFL career, it's a lot of being in the right place at the right time. I was an undersized tight end, and back when I went to the Rams and the Bucs, the NFL was still Mark Bavaro type tight ends. They were very big. It was just the wrong place at the wrong time, and I was not a very great special teams player. You had to be really dialed in to get on one of the NFL teams. Didn't work out for me, and had to go out and work for Merrill Lynch. I started at Merrill Lynch, really liked it, loved the markets and stuff. Became a trader. We did really well. So we did really well from, 96 to probably 2004 or 5. And then the markets changed somewhat. So I was married, had 2 daughters, still have, my daughters not, I don't have them. They changed the way the market sort of worked, and I just could not deal with with the changes. And I started drinking a little bit more, and I had all these slight nagging injuries is what I would tell myself. So I was taking like these pain pills, but I didn't think they were that bad for you. And this is back before you sort of, heard about the fentanyl and all that. So I didn't know you didn't really know they were addictive. But anyway, I was doing that, and I didn't really realize there was anything wrong with it. I was definitely drinking too much, and then I didn't have any coping skills. And then when the market sort of changed, my marriage with my wife, who, great girl, by the way, met at Florida, who I had 2 daughters with, she, she's like, I'm out of here. You're way out of control. And, I still probably had that little bit of that bravado. And I was like, all right, see ya, and, she did, she left, and I probably spent another 6 or 7 years still drinking. I went to treatment once, didn't work. I blamed, pretty much, I forgot a lot of Coach Spurrier's lessons, that's for sure. I started just, trying to blame not other people, but I sort of just blamed the markets. I blamed Greenspan. I blamed, just life's unfair, And then I think I can tell you exactly what it is. It was August 4th, 2013. I had just had enough, and I went to a recovery meeting. I don't want to say the anonymous name that it is, but I went to a recovery meeting. I was like, I didn't have any money. I went from living in a 7-figure type house to living back at my mom's, and it was pretty rough, and I had to learn how to figure out what to do with the rest of my life, and I had to learn to live life on life's terms, and I had to learn to not use other substances to make me feel different. I had to deal with life, and with that, something magical happened, and getting one day sober. I want to say from 2005 until 2013, I don't think there was one day I didn't drink. So I really just like golfed and drank and didn't do much, anything else. And anyway, go ahead.
Was there any depression in there? Being separated from football, or separated from being an athlete, or maybe not getting an opportunity in the NFL?
I think people don't like to probably admit that, but it's probably like the same thing that, again, no disrespect to veterans, but it's like when you're part of a team concept for so long, and then all of a sudden it stops, and you don't have something to fulfill what you're doing, you sort of become a little bit lost. So I was fortunate enough to sort of have it with trading, and the financial markets were that way. And then the financial markets, the whole trading thing sort of broke apart too. So my whole team there sort of disappeared. Anyway, I'm not making excuses, but it's just like I didn't have any identity probably. And I remember, and this is where the Florida-Georgia game, I use this. How much time do I have? If you guys are just like, you're way
Feel
over.
free. Go ahead.
I remember the Florida-Georgia game with Ric Flair and having that great time. I had a great time, but I remember at the end of that night, I remember being on Teddy Turner Jr.'s boat, and I remember, and this is where I didn't know that I had an issue, but I should have known, because I remember this moment. I said to myself, wow, is that all there is? I remember thinking that I didn't feel that fulfilled. Like here I was, kid from Brandon, Florida, just, had a great season, beat Georgia, national TV. I set, University of Florida tight end record. And I remember thinking, is that all there is? Like that didn't fulfill me. So that was something that, I remembered, and I remembered that no amount of money or women or, good times or, anything,
Sure.
Nothing could fulfill that sort of emptiness that was inside. They call it the sort of the hole in your soul. And what I found was, I just had to find, I found recovery, thank God. And, I had really just I probably burned a lot of bridges. I mean, I didn't, it's not like I I pretty much kept it. I didn't go out and I was drunk in the streets and stuff, but I just sort of disappeared and sort of felt sorry for myself. It was probably the first time I'd failed in my life. It's probably the best way of putting it. And I didn't know how to handle that, which I look at it now as that way. So, anyway, I got sober, and, getting 1 day sober was really big. Getting to 30 days was huge. And then I got to 90 days. And then when I got to about a year and a half, I think I was 2 years sober, I met my current wife, Elizabeth, who she didn't become my wife immediately, obviously, but she's in recovery as well. And our first date, we talked about, what a perfect treatment center looks like, because we both had our fair share. And, we just talked about, having a place that, treats people well, that's, doesn't treat addiction with the stigma that it sort of had back then, where people sort of really treat you like, you're, don't have the willpower, or that you're a bad human being. And so we really started like looking at the numbers, and that's where the University of Florida connections came through. And, I got some big Gators to help me out. I mean, which I would have never had. And they believed in me. I mean, Todd Alley he's one of our biggest investors. He's a big bull Gator. Todd's amazing. And, he's somebody fantastic lawyer in town and in Tampa. And I didn't know him that well either, but he's somebody who just believed in what we were doing. And, he helped us get the investors to build Riverside. And here we are, we're 7 years. So we'll be 7 years open coming up to this August. So
that's so
cool. Actually, July 27th, I think, is technically our 7-year anniversary. But yeah, I'll be 11 years August 4th. So 11 years sober, and it's by far thank you. But it's by far the best thing that's ever happened to me. Was people hate when they hear that, but through recovery, I'm able to find a world that's gives me so much more meaning, and helping other people get help. That is way more fulfilling. So that sort of defeats the hole in your soul. And, man, my life is really fantastic. I can't ask for a better life. And with Elizabeth, she had a daughter, so she's 15 now. We've been together for 9 years now. And we have a 5-year-old together. So that's the one thing I do advise: don't have a baby at 50 years old, because it is pretty hard. It is hard. So I have another girl. So I have 4 daughters. And so life is really good. Live in South Tampa, and Riverside's doing great, and we do a lot of good things, and we try to do the right thing, and all the things that we learned from being on a good team and having good leaders and good coaches like Coach Spurrier. We just sort of implement those things, and we always talk about playing the long game and doing the next right thing. And that's really when you keep it simple like that, it's success happens. And it doesn't matter who you are. You do the next right thing. Your life gets better. And what's the saying? It's like a path opens to those who are honest. And that's the big thing, is just being honest. And you can pretty much get through any addictions, or no matter how bad you think it can be. Because trust me, back in 2012, I had lost all my money. I had lost probably the respect of my friends and family if they would have seen me. I did not think I was going to ever sort of get my life back. So it's very fortunate to get a second chance, and definitely, remember all the lessons that I learned from Coach Spurrier and stuff now.
Wow. So, that's an amazing story of recovery and redemption, and using the tools that Coach Spurrier instilled in you, not on the football field, in life to better your life and to get right.
Amazing story of recovery, and of course, taking your experience and using it to help others. Just congratulations. It's remarkable and admirable.
Well, thanks, fellas. I really appreciate it. And, Yeah, anytime you guys want one of the old guys, just let me know. I can't believe I'm one of the old guys now. I used to always be the youngest guy in the whole room, and now I'm all of a sudden I'm the old guy. So that's just, I guess, the part of life.
Well, I do have one more Florida question for you. I don't know if you're aware.
Sure.
I know you said you don't pay much attention to your football career these days, but in 2020, 247sports.com, they did create a list of the top tight ends in UF history.
I did not know that.
Some of the names on this list, right? So let me go through them. So number 1, Aaron Hernandez. For all his issues, I mean, he was an amazing tight end at Florida.
Yeah, he was an amazing tight end. But, I mean, are you going to put that in? That's a tough one.
There is definitely an asterisk next to his name.
He was unbelievably talented. He was unbelievably talented. I mean, really talented.
Number 2, Ben Troop. We can go to Ben Troop. I mean, he's a
friend of the show.
Great
he's
guy.
A beast.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
And number 3, Kirk Kirkpatrick. Number 3 all-time top tight end in UF history. Yeah.
What happened to the guy that's with Atlanta now?
So he's on there. He's number 8. Pitts is 8, but you got Reed, Aaron Walker, Cornelius Ingram. I mean, Chris Faulkner at 7. Some great names.
Wow, that's great. That's crazy that he's number 8 though. That kid was unbelievable. But I guess he had 1 year?
He didn't stay that long. Though.
Yeah. This is 2020, so we'll see. Maybe it'll change.
Yeah. But, you never know.
But according to this list, though, the top 2 living tight ends from Florida history have been on our show.
There you go.
So thank you for being part of that.
There you go.
And this is a credible site.
I know. Well, I'm going to be listening to you guys a lot more now than I've been on. I'm sorry that I've been out. I'm telling you, I'm chasing a 5-year-old around. It's hard. It's much harder.
She'll keep you young.
Yeah.
She'll keep you young.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Kirk, we usually end the show in a bit, and we're going to do you or trivia. Are you ready?
Yeah.
This is my favorite one.
So I'm going to give a stat.
Okay.
And then you got to pick who had the better stat.
Okay.
You or whoever I name. Here we go. Number 1.
Uh-huh.
Who had a higher yards per catch for a career? You or Kadarius Toney?
I don't know. I know Kadarius Toney is the guy who drops the ball a bunch. He's the guy with the Chiefs, right?
It's more of a pro
He did
thing.
that less in Gainesville. That was more of a pro.
I would say
yes.
This is obviously a trick question. I know that my senior year I averaged 14, but I think for the career was maybe 13. But Kadarius Toney was a pretty
let me
fast
ask
guy.
you this: who had a higher yards per catch for a career? You or Willie Jackson, or you or Aaron Hernandez?
I would say I would, for the fact that they got a lot of shuttle passes. Is that right?
You did. You averaged 13.5 yards for your career.
I did not know that.
Aaron Hernandez averaged 12.5. Kadarius Toney, 13.3. Willie Jackson, 13.4.
Yeah.
You got him by 0.1.
And he played the sort of the wide position right after me. Like Spurrier just put him in the tight end spot, more or less.
All right, number 2.
Yeah.
Who had more yards in a single season at UF? You or Kyle Pitts?
I think we tied, didn't we? At 770?
You did. It's a push.
Very good.
Ooh,
I did know that.
That
See,
was
look at the
good.
vanity that I looked that up. I did know that. But he only played like 5 games.
770.
He played 5 games or something.
What's that?
Didn't he play like 5 games?
I
No,
wasn't going to put
it
that
was
in
something
there.
like that. I want to say that, he was unbelievable that year. And I think they played whatever it was, 7 games or something, but the guy was unstoppable. And what a unbelievable athlete that guy is. I mean, I've never met him. I did meet Aaron Hernandez right before he broke my records, and he was actually really nice. And I heard he was a wild man, but he was like, yes, sir, no, sir. And he wasn't, I'm 6'2". He was like 6 feet, 6.5 feet. But man, you never know. You never know what a crazy team that was.
Yeah.
That's a whole other story. But yeah, that's great, guys. So I'm 2-0 with that, right?
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. All right. Number 3.
Yep.
Who had more touchdowns in a single season? You or Aaron Hernandez?
Aaron Hernandez has to.
No, you had 7 in 1990.
Really?
Aaron Hernandez had 5
Yeah.
twice in 08 and 09.
Really? I would have never guessed that.
That's right.
I would have never guessed. I thought for sure he had more than that.
All right, last one.
Interesting. I thought Hernandez had more.
Tebow vultured a lot of those touchdowns too with those goal line rushes of his own.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. He did.
Here we go. Number 4. Who had more receptions in their career, you or Ben Troop?
I know I beat Ben on that. Ben's a great guy, but they didn't throw the ball that much. So I think I beat Ben Troop on that.
He sure did.
You did. You had 82 for your career at UF.
Yes.
He had 64.
Yes. But he was only played like 2 years or something, right?
Once again, I don't need to put that in here.
Yeah. Ben's a great guy, though. He is a very, very good guy.
What you want them to tell you.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So you had it all where I won where I got the award. That's it's called random selectiveness, isn't it? When you just pick out the different ones that make you win.
The magic of statistics.
The magic of statistics.
That's right. Kirk Kirkpatrick, one of the greatest tight ends to ever roam the swamp. Such an honor and a pleasure to have you on, to hear your story. Like Andy said, so admirable what you're doing. Riverside Recovery in Tampa. Do you want to give out a number or a website, or if somebody's listening that maybe wants to pursue some help, how they can get a hold of you?
They can reach me, Riverside Recovery of Tampa. It's www.rrtampa.com, and our 24/7 admissions line is 813-575-4141. I have that memorized. But yeah, and just, ask to speak to me. I love helping people, and that's sort of my biggest passion. And, we got a great team, and we again, try to do the right thing. And, that's what you'll get. And hopefully, people who are needing help will at least reach out. I mean, again, it's the best thing that's ever I did in my life. And I'm not, by far the best thing I ever did in my life was getting in recovery. So, it's a great life.
It's an amazing story, and we do appreciate you being on. It's an amazing story. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thanks, fellas. Have a good one.
Well, definitely one of the most powerful stories that we've had on.
Absolutely.
And another member of that first Spurrier, first SEC championship team. So,
those are some of your favorites.
I do. I really get a kick out of that. That's my sweet spot. I like that.
I just like, sometimes there are names we've heard or seen, whatever, a football card of, or, something online about some Gator great. And then when you dig into it and really find out everything they accomplished, I mean, this guy was the greatest tight end to ever play for Florida by the time he graduated. I mean, that's a big deal.
That's a huge deal. And when you look at what he did in that senior season with all those ridiculous stats, again, this is the time when the star tight ends were like the third option in the passing game in the NFL and the pro level, definitely probably the fourth or fifth option in the college level. So you have, like he mentioned, like the Mark Bavaros of his day, the superstars tight ends back then were getting like 50, 60 balls. No, it's not like Kelsey and 100 catches now. So he's doing that. He's competing on par with the best receivers. Forget about us, how far surpassed the other tight ends he was.
Sure.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it was. All right, you ready for our 2 bits?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
All right, who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
All right.
I haven't gone first in a while. I just thought it was kind of interesting. One of the comments he made about, I guess it was around one of you guys, John, I think asked him about Emmitt, and he was basically saying, back in the day, and we all remember right back then, no internet, right? He said he didn't know who was on the team, who was good, didn't really know who Emmitt Smith was.
Showed up to find out.
It's just, to me, it just reminded me of how different it was back then to how it is today. And he mentioned, very humbling getting on campus and thinking you're one of the big dogs, and then finding out you may not be.
Yeah, there's 4 or 5 other guys just as big or bigger than you.
Exactly. So it does kind of shed some light on why the game is so different now. So I thought that was kind of an interesting take that he had on how it was back then.
I like that. Good one, Andy.
All right, I'll go next. Mine was, a very powerful moment of the story he told being on Ted Turner Jr.'s boat with Ric Flair after the big Georgia win, and he breaks the record of most receptions by a tight end, most receptions, period, at UF in the season. And he thought to himself, is this it? This is all there is? There's nothing more to this? And that was just a very powerful moment. I mean, it was just cool to hear him share that very personal thought and moment, maybe the lowest of the lows to get to the highest of the highs that he's doing now and helping other people. I thought that was very cool. We don't hear stories like that on this podcast very often.
Good one. I like it.
Okay.
All right. I like that.
Let's see if Sid can close us out. We've had 2 good ones. Let's see if Sid can
Sid's
keep
going to talk about all the Jets references.
I got to say, I really, really appreciate the Mo Lewis shout out. That was pretty awesome. The excellent Mo Lewis. Great linebacker from the Jets in the 90s. But to piggyback on what John said, the character of this gentleman, phenomenal. Clearly, his father served our country in the Air Force. He grew up in the military. I'm sure that structure and discipline helped shape some of his successes later on. And, was very humble. He deflected. But I'm actually going to do my 2 bits on something that we kind of talked about with him, and I specifically asked him. I love the insight into the instant culture change for Spurrier. How he talked about how they got destroyed by the Washington bowl game. Kind of reminded me of that awful game I sat through in Vegas a couple bowls ago. God, that was hard to watch. And it just like the team was checked out, and it's really, really hard to sit through. And then coach showed up, and it's like on a dime instantly. Nope, new guys here, new sheriff's in town. I don't know what happened before, but here's how it's going to be. And and how he kind of got it was, obviously a former player, so did a lot of things to get the players, like he said, kind of silly. Why should you drive from Jacksonville back to Gainesville to go back to Jacksonville? You might as well just stay. Subtle things like that, though, really make the difference and help with that camaraderie and help the team buy in. And, you could hear that, not just from tonight's guests, from all the guests from that era, how they have such great affection and love for that man. And that is why, to me, as he said, he is the greatest Gator, because he did it on the field and on the sideline. So my 2 bits is to the old ball coach and establishing the culture, and our guest, Kirk Kirkpatrick, being there on day 1 and sharing us what that was like. That was pretty good.
All right, gentlemen. Another great episode of All for the Gators podcast.
Oh, yeah.
We have a website, right?
We do. It's Sid's favorite.
Andy, websites are places when you go on the net and you go on the internet and you
I'm
type
very
in a
well,
place, it takes
very well
okay.
versed in websites. It's the social media piece I'm not quite so versed on.
Yeah, Andy, get off Feet Finders.
Oh, Jesus.
There's places to find feet.
Get off Feet Finders and go to www.allforthegatorspodcast.com.
Sid, what's your favorite section of the website? Tell me again.
Where it's got a picture of me and my mom, our favorite fan.
Oh, God, we're off the rails.
There you go.
All right, gentlemen, go Gators.
Go Gators.
Go Gators.